Hey guys, I just want to preface this video by saying that this video was recorded this last Friday, February 27th, when the events that I speak of in the video took place on Sunday, February 22nd, just in case you get confused because today is Sunday when I'm releasing this video. All of this happened last Sunday. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Glad you're all here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what just happened with the cartel in Jalisco. There were 20 out of 31 states in Mexico that were affected by this entire thing, and Jalisco got hit the hardest. So we're going to talk about that today, especially considering there were a lot of over and under exaggerations when it came to news and media. A lot of the under exaggerations are coming from the foreign population, Americans and Canadians, who are basically saying, no big deal, nobody was hurt. Well, they were. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm sure that some of my clients are not going to like that, but I feel like you need to know the truth. And the truth is not as bad as you think it is, actually. That doesn't mean that there might be something in the future that happens. Nobody's guaranteed safety. My name is Amanda Turner, and I'm a real estate agent in Lake Chapala, Mexico, which is in Jalisco. This coming October will be 9 years that I've lived here. I've spent all of my time in Mexico in Ajijic. I've lived here the whole time. I came from St. Petersburg, Florida. My parents were both in the Marines, and so we traveled quite a bit. I did my elementary school years in Japan, my years before that in California, and my years after that in Florida, and then I came here, and I have been here ever since. Aside from real estate, I also have a bed and breakfast and a coffee shop in Ajijic Centro. The bed and breakfast and the coffee shop have won Best of Lake Chapala for the last several years. Best coffee, best B&B. We are located right next door to the Lake Chapala Society, which is kind of like an expat hub where you can go and get information on the area. They also have English classes for Mexicans, Spanish classes for English speakers. Ajijic is the most expensive area in the entire Lake Chapala area. It's the historic centro of Ajijic, Ribera, San Antonio, and it's beautiful. It's very lush. It's very nice. It's got a lot of historic background and a lot of murals, a lot of artists, and it's just a really beautiful area to live. And if you are thinking about moving to Mexico, Ajijic is a great place to land. It's a soft landing for anyone who doesn't speak Spanish, although I highly recommend learning the language as best as you can. I think it's a little bit rude that people come here and they don't even try to learn Spanish. So what had happened was that the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, which is Cartel Jalisco New Generation, the head of this cartel, El Mencho, was tracked down, taken into custody, and killed in Tapalpa, Jalisco, which is about a 2-hour drive from where I live right now. Lake Chapala is about 30 minutes from the Guadalajara International Airport and about an hour from the city center of Guadalajara, depending on traffic, más o menos. When he was taken and killed, the cartel swept through the country and retaliated on many parts of Mexico, and it was swift. What mainly happened was Oxxos were burned, Bienestar banks were burned, and there were a lot of roadblocks from cars and trucks being burned roadside so that people could not get through, and so that delivery services couldn't get through. Basically, everything in Mexico stopped on Sunday, this last Sunday. I've been asked why Oxxos and Bienestars were specifically targeted in the retaliation, and just simply asking Google says Oxxo is not just a snack store. It processes utility bill payments, government program deposits, bank transfers, phone top-ups, and remittances. A lot of things are done through Oxxo, okay? If I need to transfer money to someone, if I need to pay a bill, I can either use my bank to pay that bill, or I can go to an Oxxo and deposit that way. Phone bills sometimes are paid through OXXO as well. Mine is on a program with Telcel, so it's on an automatic payment system. But a lot of people pay phone bills through OXXO. They can pay utility bills like their electricity, things like that through OXXO. What I have heard, and this is just speculation, okay, is that OXXO is complicit in surveillance of cartel activities with the government, and that could possibly be why they were targeting OXXOs. As for Bienestar is involved with a lot of government programs. So it's a state-owned institution. It distributes social programs, pensions, and federal aid directly to citizens. So when the cartel attacks, the message is we can hit the state, we can disrupt federal operations, we are not afraid of the central government. There's a lot of also speculation on the Mexican government and how complicit it is in cartel activity, and there's also some about the US being involved as well. What we do know is that a lot of the firearms that the cartel receives they come from the US. We know that as a fact. Now, this is not me saying anything like Mexico is better than the US or the US is better than Mexico, or that, we should all hate the US or we should all hate Mexico. That is not what I'm saying at all, okay? There are a lot of things going on in this world right now in damn near every country that is not okay and that is disrupting everyday life, and we're all on edge. This is not a left situation. This is not a right situation. This is not a Republican Democrat situation that's going on right now, okay? The whole world is being disrupted right now, and personally what I think is that everybody needs to take a step back, stop blaming each other, and look at the bigger picture. I personally have a feeling that there is something bigger coming. And I'm not talking about the cartel, okay? Could be the cartel, could be, I don't know, war. It could, we're on the verge of war with Iran right now, and the US is. And, I'm not talking specifically about those things. I'm talking about the whole world is in an upheaval right now. There's a lot going on, and I feel like we all need to come together and create world peace. No, I'm just kidding. We need to come together and rely on our communities and worry about ourselves and our communities first, okay? We need to stop putting such a heavy reliance on government, and we need to kind of take control of what we can. You know what I mean? Like, take control of your home, of your business, of your neighbors, of your family, and just start becoming more self-reliant. Like, focus on the people around you that you trust and that you love, and just know that I have a sixth sense about these things. Ask my husband. He knows, like, when I say something weird like that, he's like, oh, okay, maybe we should start doing something, preparing or whatever. And I'm not telling everybody to live in fear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just be prepared, like, just be prepared in your everyday lives for something to happen to where you're going to have to become very self-reliant on each other. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is, a lot of things are still speculation on which government, how much government, cartel, everything, all of that, how it happened, why the cartel targeted OXXOs and banks, and we know why they created roadblocks, is so that everyday life couldn't function. The point is, this is all speculation. Do your own research. I'm only coming to you in this video because I owe that to my subscribers, not to just like have my next video be a home tour. I'm your boots on the ground. I was here. I live in the state of Jalisco, and I go to Guadalajara twice a week. And I live about an hour from there, and it is the major city closest to us. We live in a small town, and so we utilize Guadalajara for a lot of things, and the Guadalajara International Airport. I'm a real estate agent. I have a lot of people flying in and looking to purchase homes here, and also staying at our bed and breakfast. We have a lot of visitors that come here, so we are heavily involved with Guadalajara and the airport and Jalisco in general. So aside from Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta was hit pretty bad as well. So Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta had the most businesses burned, and roadblocks, road closure, fires in general. Chapala, which is about 20 minutes from where I live, and Jocotepec, which is about 30 minutes from where I live, both got hit as well. So I believe that in Chapala there were 2 OXXOs burned, a restaurant and a bank. And in Joko, there were a lot more. I don't know the exact count of those. What I can tell you is that Ajijic, Riberas, San Antonio were not touched. Not at all. There were some supposed viewings of cartel members being seen on the highway after they had the shutdown. But other than that, these areas were untouched. Now, there were a lot of exaggerated news reports that came up during this time. First one we have is from the New York Post. They said no one should be going. GOP senator urges spring breakers to cancel trips to Mexico amid country's violence. We have the Free Press that said the gringo's fantasy is now up in smoke. The gringo dream burns in Puerto Vallarta. The Times said cartel war leaves U.S. terrorists stranded in Mexican resorts. Like, look at this. It's like the whole city is burning. And it did actually look like this, okay? This is a real report. There are some reports that the airport was on fire, that planes flying into Guadalajara or out of Guadalajara were on fire. That was AI. That did not happen, okay? There was a scare at the airport, and the airport did get shut down for a long time, but that's because like all the roads coming in and out were blocked by burning cars, okay? So the airport was shut down. I do think an incident happened at the airport. I think someone was firing a gun in the air at the airport, and that scared everybody. In fact, my neighbor had cousins at the airport at the time, and they locked themselves into the bathroom there. A couple hours after he told me that, they were already en route back to Ajijic. The highways had opened back up. The comments on this Times, cartel war leaves U.S. tourists stranded in Mexican resorts. Let's see what they say. So someone said, oh my God, guys, everything's the same as always. In the United States, there are shootings every week and civilians are killed. Here it was just cars burned. There were no deaths in Vallarta. Someone else said nothing compared to being stressed for months in cities like Minneapolis or Chicago. Someone else said stranded, LOL. Order another margarita. Can I be stranded and trapped here a little longer? Please stop all the bullshit. PV is back to normal. Shops, stores, and restaurants are open. The people here are resilient, having a great time with a lot fewer people here. There have been no issues since Sunday. Okay, there's a couple things I want to say about that. The first comment where someone says, in the United States, there are shootings every week and civilians are killed. There are parts of the US that are unsafe. There are parts of Mexico that are unsafe. There are parts of the US that are very safe. And there are parts of the of Mexico that are very safe as well. I have been seeing a lot of back and forth about the US is this, Mexico is this. And what's crazy to me is that I'm seeing a lot of Americans saying how terrible the US is. And I'm seeing a lot of Mexicans saying how terrible Mexico is. Two things can be true at once. Yes, both countries have their issues, but I don't think that we should be like, we're comparing apples to apples here, okay? Why are we bashing our respective countries like that? You know, I mean, there are so many good things about Mexico. There are so many good things about the US, but each country has its situations that are not going well right now. And I am not here to say that one is better than the other. What I am here to say is this is not a competition, okay? We're talking about lives. We're talking about personal property that people have worked their asses for their entire lives, okay? Whether you're in the US or you're in Mexico. We're not trying to compete with each other about which of our countries is less safe than the other one. That's not what we're doing. Both countries are having situations right now. Okay. And I need everybody to just stop. Another thing that's really bothering me is that and I'm not sure if a lot of you know this because I didn't know this when I first came here, but the American, Canadian, English speaking population here are called gringos. And it's not a derogatory term. It's just what it is. We have a lot of Facebook pages run by Americans and we call ourselves gringos. Okay. I didn't like it at first because it was a derogatory term in the US, but that's what we're called here. That's what it is, okay? So there are a lot of gringos that are talking about how nobody was injured, nobody was murdered, civilians weren't murdered, this and that. This country is very safe. You don't have to worry about not coming here. Everything's back to normal. While yes, I would say Monday around noon, things started opening back up. We opened our cafe back up at noon and everybody was like sick of waiting inside. And we had our best day we've ever had in the cafe on Monday when we opened at noon. We had a record first hour. And then by Tuesday, everything was open back up. Things were functioning as normal. Traffic was heavy on the highway like it normally is. There were people injured, okay? There were people murdered, civilians. And Those things did happen, okay? And what I want the gringo community to understand is that we are heavily privileged in this country. A lot of people who come here and they just associate with the American and Canadian community here, and they don't really associate too much with the Mexican community because they don't speak Spanish, and a lot of times you have to have a common language to really be initiated into a group. I feel like I have a leg up in that because I own businesses here. And while I'm not fluent in Spanish, I think I'm beyond conversational. I mean, I understand everything that's being said, and I can speak back to everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to read like complicated contracts in Spanish, but what I do have to say is that I feel like the gringo community, they're in a bubble, and when you run a business here, it's a little bit different. So I'm involved with my employees. My neighbors at my house are predominantly Mexican, where all my neighbors at the bed and breakfast are predominantly foreign. I know for a fact that the Mexican community has fear of the cartel, and I'm not saying they're living their lives in fear and they're locked in their homes or anything like that. No, definitely not. Like you're always seeing Mexicans out on the street here talking with each other, having a good time, having parties, things like that. But there is an underlying fear of the cartel for the Mexicans, and it really frustrates me when gringos are like, no, there's nothing going on here, we're safe. Yeah, you're safe. Okay, you're not the ones being targeted. You're not the ones that get caught in crossfire. It's the Mexicans, okay? So that's one thing that I want to talk a little bit about. And this is a prime example. I mean, this was just reported yesterday, Thursday. Mexico's largest trucking association reports that 6 truck drivers were killed and 4 remain missing. So these are just everyday truck drivers who weren't involved with the cartel. And a lot of the gringos will say, don't get involved with the cartel, don't sell drugs, don't buy drugs, and you'll be fine. That's true. But for Mexicans, that's not true, okay? In predominantly Mexican towns, they have troubles with the cartel more often than you would think. And all these reports about people going missing in Mexico, they are true. So yeah, we have to keep that in mind. Like, we are very sheltered in our American Canadian little bubble that we live in. And I feel fortunate and maybe a little unfortunate to know that that's not the case for Mexicans, okay? Like, there's a whole other side of Mexico going on that you don't understand, and I don't even fully understand because I'm not Mexican born. Okay, here's another one, the Wall Street Journal. It was paradise for American retirees until it became the center of a drug war. Okay. Mexico's been the center of a drug war for decades, okay? It wasn't just Sunday. And here are some of this comment down below, the U.S. news is sensationalizing per usual. Very true. While I do think, no, everything I just said is doom and gloom, okay? But while I do think that what happened Sunday is serious, I also am very impressed with the fact that we all kind of just went about our lives after that. It's no secret that the cartel exists in Mexico. It's there. What are you going to do? Mexico's beautiful. The culture here is amazing. And but at the same time, we did kind of get back to normal pretty quickly, and nothing has happened since. There's been a little bit of, there's been some reports of a few things happening, but we're not even really sure they're cartel related, and I don't think that they are. But I feel like that's just people kind of riding the coattails of the cartel right now. So the comments on this one: Puerto Vallarta is and will continue to be a paradise defined by its people, its peace, and its resilience. I agree with that. A few isolated hours do not define a destination, nor do they reflect the daily reality being lived here. I agree with that. Unfortunately, some headlines have chosen sensationalism over responsibility, prioritizing clicks and sales over truth and impact. The damage, I totally agree with that. The damage caused by exaggerated and misleading narratives is real, affecting an entire community that works tirelessly to welcome visitors with warmth and integrity. We respectfully urge greater responsibility in reporting. Puerto Vallarta stands strong, safe, and united. I agree with that. So from what I understand from reports of Puerto Vallarta is that it did go back to normal. Nobody was injured in Vallarta as far as I know. But there were some people injured and killed in Guadalajara, and it wasn't a significant amount. It was several, but all things considered, I think that it didn't go as bad as it could have. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a little bit into like my personal experience when this all happened. So about 9 o'clock, my husband, Louis, left to drive to the airport with some guests from the hotel, from our bed and breakfast, and take them to the airport because they had to catch a flight. One of my employees messaged me and said, Amanda, look what's going on. I had warned Louis not to go, and he's going, so figure it out. Like, see if you can get him to come back. So when I called Louis and talked to him, he said there are cars burning in front of us, and as I'm driving, there's cars being lit up behind us too. He's like, I'm stuck. I need to figure this out. I'll call you back in a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, okay. If you know Louis, you know that guy never needs rescuing. If anyone can figure it out, it's him. Like, what I knew that I needed to focus on right then in that moment, of course I was worried about him, but I needed to go focus on what was going on with my employees and my guests and everything. So I walked over to the bed and breakfast, which is about 3 blocks from my house, and talked to the employees, and everybody was like, it seems to just be Guadalajara right now, so maybe we don't need to do anything. And we were kind of contemplating, should we close, should we not? And so I handled some things there. I went back to my house, and then my employee sent me some screenshots of things are starting to happen in Chapala and Jocotepec. So I rushed back to the bed and breakfast, and I was like, okay, we're gonna close. Just, do your normal closing stuff. Let everybody know that we need to close. And then right then is when we got the code red for everyone to shut down. So I told the employees that lived very close, get out of here, don't even clean up, go home. And one of our employees, she lived in Chapala, so they had shut down buses and everything. No public transportation, everything was shut down. Code red, nobody move. We closed the cafe. My employee who lived close, both my housekeeper and my barista went home. And one of my employees, my other employee, lives in Chapala, and her whole family was in Guadalajara, so she couldn't leave. She got stuck at the hotel. Our bed and breakfast was full, and crazy enough, everyone was supposed to, I think 5 out of 7 rooms were supposed to check out on Sunday and fly back to one of the couple that was stranded with Louis was supposed to fly to Vallarta. And then others to Puerto Vallarta or other places in Mexico, the US or Canada. So they all got stuck at the bed and breakfast. We shut it all down. My husband called me and he said, hey, we're okay. We're in a small town right now that's kind of like a detour off between here and the airport. And he said, we're just going to hang here because all the highways are closed. Everything's shut down. He found a hotel there and asked the people to let him in so they could get a couple rooms, and they were refusing to let him in. So he went to a liquor store around the corner and bought a bunch of tequila and cigarettes and basically bribed them, please let us in. We need shelter. We can't be out here on the street. So they finally let them in. The guest got a room, but he waited to get a room because he was trying to get back here to me and to our guests and to our bed and breakfast and everything. But while I was on the phone with him, he said, okay, I need you to pack up everything from the house, take the dogs, and go to the bed and breakfast. The people on property are going to need you, and you're going to need to be around people as well. I don't want you to just be sitting in the house alone. So I came back to the house, and I just went through my entire house and just packed up everything. I packed up dog toys, dog food, the crate for the dogs because Rook is wild and doesn't like to sleep unless he's in the crate. Quinn is chill and will sleep anywhere. And packed up all my things that I needed. I grabbed a bunch of food and I packed it up and brought everything to the bed and breakfast. We had a guest staying in the casita, which is our 2-story building in the very back of the property. And I've been saying for years, if anything were to go down, okay, the casita is the most fortified building between our house and the bed and breakfast. It is a standalone building on the property. It's 2 levels, high ceilings, and a mirror door at the top, and it is impenetrable, okay? All the windows have bars on them, like most homes in Mexico, but the front door is a bolt lock, so you have to use a key to open it from the inside and the outside. And aside from that, all the screens are metal, and the mirador is so high, like you can see the roofs of everything in Ajijic. And so, if I needed a lookout. So I asked the guest that was staying in the casita to vacate and go to another room so that I could have the casita, and also I have the 2 dogs. So I need them to have that whole back area to roam around because, they're Dobermans. They're not going to, and they're puppies. They're like 5 months old, so they're going to be annoying. They need space. So I did that. And then at the same time, my phone is just like ringing off the hook. So many messages. I'm getting emails from YouTube subscribers. Thank you guys for checking in on me. And all the while, my husband's stuck in some small town, and he's trying to figure out if he should take the chance and come just try to figure out how to get here before it gets worse, if it gets worse. And so I'm trying to stay calm. Meanwhile, I'm like sweating like crazy because I'm kind of trying to get everything situated, and I'm trying to keep everybody calm. And, the best thing I have to say, so we had Mexicans and Americans on the property, and Canadians, and everybody was pure angels. Like, everybody was so understanding. They weren't worried. They were very patient with me while I was trying to get them information and figure everything out, and trying to sort out rooms, like who could go where, because our employee got stuck too, so she needed a room. And, everybody was just so great. And they're like, do you need help carrying your things in? Do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? And I basically just said no, because I wanted everybody to just relax. And, I was like, open any wine you want, get any beer you want. Just everybody relax. We started a WhatsApp group for the whole hotel so that everybody could be aware of everything going on. And in case anything went down, we could all be aware of what was happening. That night, because all stores were shut down, everything was shut down, we cooked a family style meal for everybody, and everybody got involved. Like, everybody was cooking, everybody was getting everything together. And thank God I brought that food from my house, because we needed that, because all we have on a bed of breakfast is like eggs and bacon, So I brought chicken and spinach and like a veggie salad, and we had all that, and everybody, and I told all the rooms, I was like, you're welcome to join us for family style dinner, bring it to your room, whatever. But we'll put it all out on the table for you to eat. And everyone in the building, and like there were Mexicans that didn't, like majority of everybody spoke English, except there was a couple that didn't speak English, but everyone came out and just sat and had dinner together at our community table. And it was like a little family style gathering, and everybody had a really good time. And, one of our privileges of being in Ajijic, as I speak of that. So then we had dinner, and then, we got a call from, Louis called actually, and he said the person who was supposed to check into the casita is coming from the airport. The highways have opened up. He's on his way. And I was like, oh shit. All right. I got to pack everything up and go back to the house. By that time, like around 5 p.m., I remember texting my friend Jessica, and I was like, hey, does it kind of seem like things are sort of calming down? Like, I haven't heard any new news reports. No one's like sending me anything anymore. I feel like it's calming down a little bit. And she's like, yeah, I kind of feel the same. And so right at that time is when we got the call that like the highways to the airport opened back up, and my neighbor's cousins were able to drive back to town. And that's when I called Louis, and I was like, hey, highways are opening back up. Get over here. So he headed this way, but he had to go, the highway coming back down was not open from where he was. So he had to go back up into Guadalajara, and one of his friends was stuck at the bus stop in Guadalajara, the central station. And so he went to go help her, and so she could get back to her kids. And then he came back down to Ajijic, and he didn't get home till like 9 or 10. And on his way home, he said he saw cars still burning and cars that were just like incinerated completely. He comes back, the guest of the casita shows up, and we're trying to get his room ready and everything, and everybody was super helpful, like cleaning up and everything. And okay, so then I go back to the house. I didn't get to bed till like midnight or whatever, but I was like, okay, if things are still closed, I need to go to the bed and breakfast in the morning and start cooking meals for everybody. So I went to the bed and breakfast 7 a.m. the next day and cooked breakfast for everybody. It was still kind of like a family style meal type situation. And since the highways were open, guests were attempting to go back to the airport, and they were getting to the airport, and they were keeping us updated in the WhatsApp group and basically saying like, hey, highways are open. smooth sailing. I mean, we saw the cars that were burnt, but you know, there's no blockages anymore, and the airport is functioning as normal. Flights are coming in, flights are leaving, and you know, we're boarding our plane and we're gonna go. And so as guests were leaving the bed and breakfast, they were keeping us updated in the WhatsApp group about what was happening. So this was, what day was this? This was Monday. So come about noon, we decided to open the cafe because everything was calm and people were actually out on the street and they're like, hey, are you guys open? We want some coffee, la, la, la. So we're like, well, let's just open. A few other businesses in town opened too. A couple of grocery stores, the chicken shop, and like a bookstore was open, American bookstore or English bookstore. And so we opened up and we had like a record first hour. It was crazy how busy we were. We're so busy. And we stayed open till 8 p.m. But, you know, we stayed on property just to make sure everything was going well. And I just kind of had an uneasy feeling because we didn't know if this was the end of it, you know. So I stayed on property just to make sure everything was going well. And I called and I called my employees and I said, hey, do you want to work? And I only called the ones that lived very close. So like if anything were to happen, they could get home very easily. And they're like, yeah, we'll come in. So they came in. And everything was fine that day. We had reports of different things happening, but like I said, we don't feel like that it was part of that same ordeal, like it was cartel related. And then come Tuesday, the whole town completely back to normal, like as if nothing happened. I mean, of course, all the conversations were happening and everything, but yeah. And since then, and today is Friday, since then, everything has been functioning completely normal. So I'm happy to have our little town back, but there is an underlying feeling of, is this the end of it? You know, I mean, they killed El Mencho. So during the whole Sunday ordeal, as well as getting very gracious calls and emails and texts from all of the people who were wondering about my safety and about the well-being of us down here. Thank you guys so much. We had several cancellations at the B&B. So when, you know, people are talking about everything is fine, no one was affected. Yeah, a lot of people are affected. Okay. We've had a lot of cancellations since this happened, and we are trying to figure out how to make it work if there are more cancellations and if this is going to keep people from coming to this area and Mexico in general. So we've got a lot to worry about right now, and we're not the only ones, you know? I mean, there was even a comment from somebody, well, this is a post in the Gringos Ajijic Chapala page, Facebook page, if you guys are not members on those, and you're thinking about moving to this area, that's a good page to stay updated with. The violence following the death of El Mencho impacted 88% of businesses in Jalisco. Mexican businesses lose 1.5 billion pesos after the operation that killed El Mencho. So a lot of people are affected by this. And then one guy commented on this and said, I expect the people who would normally buy milk on Monday went out and bought it the next day. And I'm like, get out of my face, you know. But yeah, we're going to be very affected by this in the coming weeks and probably months. I don't know about years, as long as nothing else happened, you know. But like I said, it's no secret that the cartel exists in Mexico and things happen. And while I think that the death toll of everyday citizens was very low, I don't like the fact that people are like, there is a lot going on in the comments about, hey, they pulled people off the buses before they torched them. And I'm like, imagine you were the person on this bus and these cartel members get on the bus and they tell everyone to get off or they're going to kill you or whatever. Like, what, like, how terrified would you be? Like, you don't know if you're going to live or if you're going to die. And then not to mention, I mean, let's say you're halfway between here and Guadalajara in the middle of nowhere, and you just got let off a bus, and there's cars burning in front of you, and there's cars burning behind you, and there's nowhere to go. And let's say you don't even have any water on you, you don't have food on you, and you don't know how long this is gonna last. Like, Are you joking? Like, I really can't stand it when people have been saying that this whole time, because lives were affected, okay? People's cars, yes, they were pulled out of the cars before they were burned, but their car was burned down. You know what I mean? Like, people work hard for these possessions, and it's their livelihood. It's their everyday, like, how they get to work and back, how they pick up their kids, and just different things. You know what I'm saying? Let me calm down. Okay, so, and then we all know that insurance lately, whether you're in Mexico or in the US, is not looking out for the people. You know, me personally, I feel like insurance is just kind of a waste of money. I know that in the US, you have to have home insurance if you have a mortgage. You have to have car insurance if you have a license and you have a car. Here in Mexico, it doesn't really work like that. You don't have to have car insurance. You don't, unless you have a loan on your car, and same with your house. But if you don't have a loan on those things, you don't have to have insurance. And most people opt not to, because they know that insurance isn't really looking out for your best interest, okay? A lot of these people whose cars burn down, and their trucks, like these semi trucks, like a lot of these guys own their own vehicles, and they're transporting goods, and they lost all those goods, and they lost their vehicle, and not to mention the Oxos that burned, or the Bienestars that burned, and, you know, maybe someone's house is right next door to that. Maybe they lived on the second floor of this Oxo. So everybody, please, like, just stop acting like this was not a big deal. It was a big deal. Granted, yes, there was a very low percentage of people who lost their lives on Sunday, okay? Very, very, very low percentage, but we were all affected, and we will be affected in the days and months and hopefully not years to come, as long as there is no more retaliation, okay? And as for the gringos who are all retired or on vacation or whatever, like, that's great. That's excellent. I love that for you. But just keep in mind that there are other people that are affected by this and will be affected by this in the days, weeks, and months to come, okay? For my basically closing statement, I just want to say that overall, this could have been a whole lot worse than it was, okay? We are very fortunate, especially in this area, Ajijic, Rivera, San Antonio, completely untouched. We were very safe during this time. But I do think that this is going to affect us in the short term / long term of business and everything in this area, in Mexico as a whole, especially for people who aren't familiar with Mexico like I am, or like people who have visited several times and understand the situation with the cartel. A lot of people who have never been to Mexico are going to be very afraid to come to Mexico. What I would like to say is that, like I said before, you can't guarantee safety anywhere in the world. Things happen. Every country has its situations. And, but for the most part, I think if you're thinking about coming to Mexico, I think you should come. I don't think that, let's say the percentage of something more happening to me is like a 30% chance right now, maybe even a 20% chance. And also because I'm not in the cartel. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they have planned, but I'll tell you this. I felt very safe during the situation. And I felt like especially my neighbors at my house that, like I said, are predominantly Mexican, like they were really looking out. Even one of my neighbors was like, I will go get Louis right now. Let's go get him. And I was like, you can't even get to him right now. Like, it's impossible. So he's fine. He's at a hotel. He's laying low. Like, it'll be fine. But he was like ready to go get him. And, I just feel like I got a lot of support from my neighbors over here at my house. My neighbors, everything going on the street where the bed and breakfast is was kind of quiet. Like, no one really came to the bed and breakfast and checked on us, but we all felt like everything was fine. Everything was safe, but so I feel like it's a very low chance that something more is going to happen. But there is a chance that something more could happen, but if you come here to Mexico and you want to continue with your travel plans, I think that's fine. I think the airport was shut down for, I want to say maybe a total of like 6 hours.
and then it was back up and functioning. Same with Vallarta, same thing. So everything seems to be fine now. I think it would be fine if you wanted to travel. And just know that if you do come to Mexico, you have a whole nation of people who will defend you if something really goes down, you know, but I don't think that it will. So if you guys have plans to come down, I think you should come down. I don't think that there's anything to worry about now. That, I mean, I can't guarantee that maybe a future event will happen. We don't know. But I can also understand why people wouldn't want to come here. You know, I understand why people might change their travel plans at the moment. If you guys want more information on this area, you can visit my website, therealamandaturner.com, and check that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, send a message through my website if you want more information on what was going down, or if you have other questions. And then in the comments below, leave if you were in Mexico when this happened. Let me know what happened. Let me know what happened in your area. And then also, like, just let us know, what do you think the chances of a future event happening are, and how do you feel about Mexico now? And, you know, just what's your opinion on the whole subject? And maybe even the subjects I didn't touch or won't touch, like politically, or whether the US was involved, or, you know, cartel being involved with Mexican government, all of that. Like, just leave your thoughts below. I want to hear them. I want to hear what everybody's thinking and what's going on. Okay. And if you're signed up for my newsletter, that will come out this Saturday. And of course, I'll be speaking a little bit about what just recently happened. And other than that, I will see you guys for the next video next week. Bye.